Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Front Door Show, brought to you by Four Fantastic Events. I'm your host, DJ Prieto, and today we have a special guest, El Maestro. Just in case you don't know what that means, it's master. Steve Silk Hurley. So
all right. Angelo.
What's happening, sir? How you doing?
Oh, I'm good.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this. With your caliber and your history, I mean, people are going to be like wowed.
Oh no, it's cool, man. Anytime someone wants to dive a little bit deeper into, your life, I think it's kind of like an honor, for someone to even take an interest in what your journey was and everything. So I'm always interested in sharing anything, hopefully good, hopefully mostly good, not too much bad, just well, you got to take the good with the bad,
Well, I think
just the reality of everything, it was kind of cool to.
Well, I think
to share.
This show is important because it takes the edge off of what's going on, in the world right now. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
If there's a purpose, it's why not give people an hour of their time and say, hey, you know what, I didn't know that.
Right.
So that's kind of why I did this show, honestly, to give people the kind of insight of things maybe they didn't know. So,
yeah.
Steve, I'm setting up the watch parties and stuff like that, but do me a favor. I want you to please introduce yourself, just in case people don't know who you are.
All right.
Surprising, but
all right. My name is Steve Silk Hurley. The other S in S&S Records, S&S Chicago. Started out as a DJ in my mother's basement, with her hitting the broom on the ceiling and telling me to turn it down. And then I graduated to the upstairs, to the second floor of the building, where she hit the broom on the ceiling to tell me to turn it down. So at some point I started dabbling and doing a little music, and the rest was history. We'll talk about all that.
All right. So surprisingly, me and you are about the same age. So we've been in the game for about the same time, How old were you when you first started, in your basement / second floor?
I would say my DJ career started when I heard Kenny Jason and Peter Lewicki on Disco DAI, and I would say it was 1978, 79. So I would have been about 15, 16. I was in high school, and I heard these guys mixing records on the radio. Donna Summer, Shaka Khan, Stephanie Mills, like soulful disco was what I like. Lips Incorporated, Funky Town, and all that stuff came along later. But just hearing them mix these records, I became instantly hooked on it, but I had no clue how to do it. Nobody in my neighborhood was doing it. I experimented with trying to find a way to learn how to mix records together. Messed up my brother's stereo system. I was pushing buttons in, trying to get the phonograph to play with an external source to see if I could get them to mix on beat, doing pause button mixes. Yeah, I was hooked. So basically, we had these things called sock hops. I don't know if that's a very old term, but that's what we call. That goes back to the 50s. The sock hops. It was like the parties in the gym. Ours was in the ROTC hall.
Okay.
And my partner Vic and I, we DJ'd these sock hops. He had records I didn't. I guess I had the ear. He had the records, and we played off each other. He knew the music. He had the music, and I knew what sounded good together. So I learned on the fly how to take those, those blue turntables with the speakers on the side that the schools have, and we had two of those, and we would put the mic from one speaker to the other, one turntable to the other to mix. So that was pretty much it. So eventually I learned how to do it. Got some belt drive turntables and started practicing, and all the way through when I graduated in '80, that's when I kind of started taking serious. So I was about 17 then, and started really learning how to DJ. That's the actual skill of DJing. You know?
What high school did you end up? Where are you going to?
Lindblom.
Okay, because I went to De La Salle. That's why.
Yeah, I didn't realize back then that it was called the Inglewood area where I was walking from school to the bus stop. But that explains why things got a little bit scary at times. You know, it was like, you know, if you take the 63rd Street bus, that's not too smart. So I learned to take the 87, the Damon bus to 87th and then go down because I live over on the southeast side.
Right.
Over by 87th and 89th and Blackstone, which is near Stony Island. So, yeah, I wasn't really in my neighborhood. So I'm walking, you know,
well,
all these.
Believe it or not, I used to be around your neighborhood a lot because when I was doing the breakdancing, the lockers were a big thing over there.
Okay.
So I used to be around there all the time with the breakdancing crew that we had. So
wow, that's cool. Where over around that way, around east, southeast, over by South Chicago, maybe.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because we had the break dance group called the Floor Masters. So I was. Wow. So at the time I was DJing / doing the breakdancing. That was kind of, I was meeting all these people in the neighborhood over there because for us, the lockers were, I don't know if you know the guys from lockers, they did mostly, yeah, exactly.
Rerun.
Exactly. But these guys were cool, man. They used to blow everybody away because there was 4 of them and they used to do their routines and we're like, holy shit.
Right.
So we learned.
Yeah, see, I wasn't even a part of that. That's what's crazy is that stuff was like a distant thing going on that I had no clue of because my parents were super strict. So I couldn't really even come out the house. I love to play basketball. I put a hoop up in my driveway, you know, to talk my dad into that. So that was what I did for recreation. And then when I discovered the music, I didn't know anybody else in the neighborhood was doing it. But I found out later that Tony Hatchett and Andre Hatchett were doing it. And, you know, they became members of the Chosen Few. And, you know, I actually remember Tony Hatchett used to show me some of his blends. He showed me this one blend that he did with Knee Deep and another one Bites the Dust. That had to be like 1981. And this blend lasted it was perfectly planned out, you know, where when it came out of the mix, it went do. Another one bites the dust. Like, but you went from, but it was like a breakdown. It was like probably a 2-minute mix almost where you're blending it the whole time. And man, that was the good old days when you used to just like kind of plan out your mixes like that. It was well thought out, you know. But as far as what you guys were doing, I had no clue that was going on. I was just in my neighborhood. And then when I got in the basement and started learning how to DJ, I would have been so far removed from that anyway. I wouldn't even want to come out and be a part of the party scene because I wanted to learn my craft first. So I was like a mad scientist more so in the beginning because I didn't know how to do it at all, you know? Right. So there's a learning curve to it.
But yeah, same thing. That I used to play basketball as well. That was what we did as well. We did basketball, breakdancing, and then there was DJing as side. So it was kind of our, you know, I was keeping busy. And and from so after you graduated, did you gravitate to doing music or did you start a DJing?
Yeah, I went to UIC for a minute, but I could not concentrate. Every time they had a party at the school, I'd be trying to get with the sound guy who was a DJ to try to see if he let me play a few records. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I'm glad he didn't let me. It would have been a disaster. But I really couldn't concentrate. So at some point, I ended up skipping school for a minute and starting to work for the city. My father helped me get a job. He figured, you know, rather than me, since I couldn't focus really on school, just, you know, get a job and make some good use of yourself. And then that allowed me to learn my craft. I just thought about something too, though. you said you were breakdancing. My neighborhood, we were doing. We had these groups called the Doctors, the Detectives, and all these different groups that were doing dancing. But it wasn't. They were doing a little bit of that locking stuff, but they weren't doing the breakdancing. And I actually was a part of the group. That's where I got my name from, Silk, because we had three guys. One named Hurt that was real muscular. One's named Stretch that was real tall and lanky, and I was Silk because I had like wavy hair. Everybody thought I was Hispanic because of my wavy hair. So they called me Silk for that. And then that became my DJ name. So I just remembered that when you said that. So sorry to rewind. Sorry about the rewind.
No, because that was going to be my question with the Silk.
Yeah.
So you answered that.
So that actually ended up being in the back of my mind. My nickname is Silk. So why don't I make that my DJ name? And then that just became like my motto, to have smooth blends and to be like one of the smoother guys on the tables, to do ingenious stuff, like try to find cool ways to mix things together, you know. But like I said, I was inspired by Kenny Jason, man. He's so underrated. Like, I can't say it enough. Like, I've been saying it a lot lately because I really started giving some thought as to what made me even want to mix in the first place. But I mean, they were doing that stuff on a regular basis, and their blends were sounding seamless with disco records that had live drums on them and everything. So, you know, that's what I grew up with, was mixing records with live drums and, you know, disco records, or, you know, post-disco records from the, you know, the garage scene in New York, the Prelude records and all that stuff, and Italio disco stuff that we played on BMX. Yeah, but it took me a while to get to that stage, though. I had to win a few battles locally on the South Side. Then I moved up to, what was that? The Penthouse. I won a battle there. First it was a nightclub called El Panama. I won a battle. Then it was the Penthouse on Roosevelt, right above this Mr. Submarine over there. And then I won a battle at Sawyer's, and that's what kind of became my home, was Sawyer's on 22nd in Michigan. Like, that was my spot. Like, that's where I really learned how to play house music.
And how old are you at that time?
Like 19.
Oh, wow.
Almost. Okay. Yeah. So it took me a couple of years to like work my way through the ranks. You know, I was going to parties that a lot of the older guys were, well, they weren't really older than me, but not that much older than me. But in terms of what my parents let me do, it made me like 2 years younger than everybody, you know, because they could get out of the house at 18. I was 19 and 20, still begging my dad to let me go out. And then I had a curfew. It was crazy. Yeah, but hey, it's Chicago, so he was worried. You know, he didn't want anything happen to us. So I get it.
Right.
You know, I'm a parent now, so I get it. But I'm glad that happened. That made me more focused on learning my craft, though.
So yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that and you I think us older DJs, we recognize that when it comes to like blends that you said, 2-minute blends is not unheard of, because that was kind of right. You know, whereas a 16-beat blend is not, you know, that's what they do now. And back then it was tricky because a lot of stuff was live recording that was recorded as far as the drums and beats. So you had to be on point as far as
you had to ride the pitch control. Here comes the part where it slows down. Bam! Like you like pull the crossfader down and make the record speed up right at the part where it slows down. Right. Like I had those records memorized. Like Is It All Over My Face, for instance, like that song. Like in that breakdown where it first comes in, it's a part right where it just starts. The drummer starts getting lazy, and you know exactly where it is. And then same thing with Pipeline. I remember a song called Pipeline. They had that same thing. It was like you memorize those parts to slow down, and you had to like learn how to still blend it without the horses coming, as they say, when the beats are going.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm sure you know about that.
Oh yeah.
If you had to, because you had to learn how to DJ at some point. So at some point, those horses were coming.
Yep. And we all had them, especially vinyl DJs. We all had them. That was our learning curve.
But you mentioned the 16 measure or 16 beat mixing that people do now. I think what ended up happening now that made it easier, when I became a remixer, I always wanted to make my records more DJ friendly. And that came throughout the years as the art of the remix developed from the Tom Moulton and Shep Pettibone days to the who else was doing remixes before I started? Just like those names stick in my head because I remember those being like the extended mixes of different things. Tony Humphries, I think, was doing some of that stuff.
Even the disco nets. The disco nets
and the disco nets. Yeah, like all that stuff like influenced us to make records more friendly for the DJ. Right. So when we started doing house music, our music was with a drum machine. So it became a little bit easier to mix because the tempo was pretty much consistent, even though we were sometimes using antiquated equipment. It was sometimes drift or whatever. If you had a horrible pressing that was doing some crazy stuff, I won't mention what label that is. It had horrible pressings, but no press for them. No press for them. No press for them. No, we can all know. No, but when I started doing more and more remixes, I always wanted to have something different happen every 8 measures that, like if a DJ was mixing, it would instinctually change the same way a song changes. When you hear it on the radio, every 8 measures, you kind of hear something different, where it's a verse and then a verse B and then a chorus and then another verse, like everything was in, 4 measures or 8 measures, where the changes would happen. I try to just do my mixes like that. So, things evolved to the point where now you don't necessarily have to think so much about, whether it's going to be measured. I remember some songs had, instead of 32 beats at the beginning, they had 22, like how do you count that out? Like, and make it so that when you bring it in, that it comes in on the right beat. Like, so I would have to subtract 16 from 22 and I would get 6. So I would take those 6 beats and I would skip all those the first 10 beats and I bring it in on the next 6 beats and then it would come in on beat. So it's like I had to apply math. So even though I was not a great student, I did pay attention to math, which ended up being good for me, becoming a business person too. So you have to count your money to make sure that things aren't wrong, right?
The accounting
count
part.
Beats, counting is very essential. If you don't want to learn anything else about math, learn accounting and adding and subtraction and division percentages, absolutely. Right? Yeah. So
when you said you got into remixing, because I guess because you kind of jumped into it. When did you become actually, did you buy equipment for remixing? Is that what happened? Is it during the course of DJing? That's
okay. Yeah, so my creative process was, first I had to learn how to be a DJ. So once I learned that, during the process of learning that, I got the opportunity to showcase myself by being in the battles. So when I won the battles, then okay, now I'm a DJ. So now I'm DJing, I have a captive audience, but I'm like, I want something different. I want to give them something that nobody else can give them. So I started making re-edits. Then I started adding drum machines to these re-edits. Then I bought like the little cheap Casios and Boss Dr. Rhythms and things like that and mixed those, but that wasn't good enough. Then I would borrow drum machines from people and start making my own tracks. So I had the re-edits, the track overlays, which they call reworks now. But I was doing reworks to, like Jungle DJ and stuff like that, adding, the bass line on top of the Dr. Rhythm. And actually Ron Hardy used to play that. I did it and it was, when I listen to it now, it's so offbeat because I was actually mixing it by hand. I was actually doing like, start the bass line, right? And then the drum machine's going, then go to the other turntable and find the break and start the bass line again and then keep bringing it over and back over. And then I would edit it at the end. So I learned how to do it that way then as I got more and more sophisticated equipment. I got better and better at it. I start out for sampling. I start out with a foot pedal, a Dr. Rhythm Boss foot pedal. I forgot what it's called, a Boss something foot pedal that lets you sample. And that's how I did. I can't turn around. I can't turn around or the jack your body. Like I was repeating stuff with the little cheap pedals and stuff. And then I eventually got a sampler. So by the time I would say in 80, after I won the battle in 82, I started dabbling in that stuff. And then by 83, I was doing tracks and 4 tracks. And I had the I Can't Turn Around and a bunch of other tracks that I had done that I was playing in the underground. They weren't released, but I was creating this stuff in the bedroom and playing on the weekend, giving copies to Frankie Knuckles, giving copies to Ron Hardy. I was, of course, playing it, giving it to other DJs. Gene Hunt told me I gave him some stuff along. I didn't even remember that I gave him like my only copy of Baby Wants to Ride when he was like 15. He told me that not long ago, like that he couldn't believe I let him have my cassette of Baby Wants to Ride. So it was just like crazy.
So and so that was the start of the culture of the house music. Is that correct? If that would been that kind of that that genre?
I would say the culture of house music started with the evolution of disco into becoming an underground gay scene that people that love music, we wanted to go to the places like the Warehouse and Power Plant and places like that. And we had our scenes for the straight audience was the Sawyers and the Loft and all the high school kids were going to that. So you had a bunch of people that still liked the music. So that we called that house music. To us was what Frankie would play at the Warehouse. That's where the term came from. So it was a culture that had started from all that dancing that you were doing back in the day. We used to have parties at St. Albie. Do you remember that place, mm-hmm. St. Albie? Yeah. Yep. So that's where those guys used to do that dances. That's the same people that built the house scene. And a lot of those became like the chosen few. And those guys, they were some of the early pioneers of taking that music to the straight audience at the high schools and passing out flyers and doing Izod Polo Fest. We used to have polos like this, but it would be an Izod or polo, and you'd have a party where it'd be like $5 with the polo on or $2 with the polo, whatever it was. So it was like that group of people wanted great music. So it kind of evolved as a culture, and then we started dabbling in the music, and of course Jesse had the first record on vinyl, but we were all kind of like Jamie did his first record, Your Love, in 1982. A lot of people don't know that because it took time for Frankie to notice it and to start playing it, but that record didn't come out till later, several years later. But so the scene itself developed, the genre started officially when Jesse released his On and On record, but the culture of it and the actual direction of it started way before that, and I
think with Jesse, what he did was make you guys notice, hey, DJs can actually put on records.
Right.
That was more the case because
and he was somebody who I knew very well. So I was like, wait a minute. Wait, you put out a record? Wait, I've been playing this stuff and I'm not even putting it out. Like, I need to get on it. Like, I had before I had re-edits and stuff at first, and then I started doing remakes of I Can't Turn Around, Love's the Message, Bra by Samandi, like all these different, and then I had some original tracks I was doing, but none of them I really felt were strong enough to put out because I was like a perfectionist. So, it took me a while to decide to put out music as a key, but people think that's the first record I did, but I Can't Turn Around and all those others I did before that. I didn't know how to put out a cover song that somebody else wrote. I didn't understand the business or anything. So that was great that Jesse did that because it just made us all just say, hey, we can do that from a business standpoint. We can put out our own record and just see what happens. And when I put out music as a kid, I wasn't trying to get rich or anything. I just wanted a record out. I wanted people who seemed like they liked it. I was like, I want to feed the demand. So then it just turned into more than I thought it was,
And let's put it on record. That was the actual first record that had the word house on it. Am I correct?
Yeah. It might have been the first one that said Jack too, although I've heard other people say that. No, it wasn't the first one that said Jack. You know what? Let me correct myself. I don't know, because Farley did a lot of records before I did, and in some cases I helped him with a couple of things on them, but I know he had Jack the bass. That might have been before me when he said Jack. He might have said something about house on that. So I don't know. I know that was the first house record with a rap on it. That was kind of like the start of hip house, but I wasn't really trying to be a hip house artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was
I
with
just
Keith Nunley singing it, obviously.
yeah.
And you do the famous breakdown of the rap, right? That's
Yep.
you doing that breakdown.
Yep. Don't tell anybody.
No, I mean, because some people don't
Yeah,
even
they
know
don't know.
that.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know. Yeah, a lot of stuff is unknown from those days, you know. But I'm so glad. I mean, those days give me a really good feeling inside because I remember how we supported each other's records and how none of us would have made it in this genre without the help of each other, you know, like,
Right.
and it wasn't just Black guys from the South Side. It was Hispanic, it was white, it was everybody playing each other's records, and the Hot Mix 5 was like a melting pot. So, you know, when I became part of that, you know, I was able to, you know, go to Dillagaff's or go to, you know, all these different places in different suburbs that I had never been to, and do an hour set and give them a taste of what I did, you know. So it was really cool. Like,
well, because DJs didn't have a color. That was the thing about the world of DJs, because it wasn't about the color, it was about the talent.
Yeah, and it was about the music that you were playing,
Right,
and whether
right.
it was moving people. Like Ralphie Rosario, man, I couldn't believe they had these turntables called 1800s. I don't know if you remember those, but they were the hardest turntables to mix on. They were quartz locked, but it was the switch was like this that you had to do your thumb on to speed it up and slow it down. It wasn't like a slider, and I never saw anybody work a pitch control like him before. I mean, it was like a lot of stuff that he did at age 14, 15, 16. And I was like, I had to go back in the lab and like learn some things when I saw him. Like, I think I was on GCI at the time. And of course that was when it was just the original Hot Mix 5. And I definitely learned from all of those guys, you know, just different skill sets. You know, we all kind of fed off of each other. So, you know, that's why I don't like to say any one person created house music or, you know, I don't even want to say the titles, but I just don't believe in the titles. Like, it's just, we all kind of came together collectively and made that thing happen. You know, like people like Byron Stingley. I remember when he was he worked at Barney's, and that's where I met him. And he had his first record, I think it was called Fix It Man or something like that. And he had, what was the other one he had? He had a few of them, but before he started really singing himself, he had like a bunch of stuff that he was putting out. And I remember when I was on BMX, I was playing his stuff and nobody was supporting him because they didn't know about it. But when I met him, he gave me the record and I was like, yeah, I can play this. Like, that's nice. And I played it on the show, and we all like supported the artist. Like, it was a real cool situation but you know how with anything, when money starts getting made, things get a little bit different, you know,
Right,
and deals
right.
start getting made and all that stuff. So it kind of changed a little bit, but at the same time, we still supported each other even through all those bumps and bruises, you know. Not only did we support each other, but people from other cities started playing our records. Then people from other countries started playing our records, namely UK and, you know, like DC. Then we started touring, going to like, we sang at JM Silk, I'm speaking of, when we had the group. We went to Paradise Garage for Larry Levan, and what was it, Zanzibar for Tony Humphries. Studio 54 was our first New York gig. We walked out on stage and they were like, boo, boo, go back to Chicago, before we could even do anything. But thank God we were well rehearsed and we killed it. Like, we did like a really great show with a lot of dance moves and everything. You know, it was just nothing but preparation that got us through that, because they gave us a standing ovation and asked us for an encore. And even though it was on the tail end of Studio 54, it wasn't like the heyday. You know, this had to be like 1986 or something like that.
Right.
But we did all the popular clubs. Yeah, I mean, went to where else did we go? DC, New York, Red Parrot.
This all happened quickly within like a 2-year period, right?
I had to. It was crazy. I had to learn. I had just learned how to be a good DJ, and then I had to learn how to be a performer, and that wasn't my thing. You know, I wasn't blessed with a whole lot of rhythm, so you know, it was a little difficult for me. And then I found out that it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. You know, I like the rush of people reacting to my song, but I didn't like singing the same songs over and over again. I like creating new things every day. So I couldn't do that and be part of a group that's singing the same songs over and over again. Like, so it just I ended up being at a crossroads, and, you know, Keith definitely loved doing that, you know, because he grew up in bands and being a performer and talent shows and all that. So that was his thing. But I wanted to be in that studio on a regular basis. So that's what made me focus and do more, a larger quantity of records, which I was in heaven doing that, because I was learning while I was doing it and perfecting my craft and getting better at learning chords and just anything that you can learn about music. I was learning it from anybody. I was like a sponge. Anybody I was working with, I would learn something from them.
So,
you know,
so your two most popular songs that I think everybody remembers, and Music is the Key, obviously. That was the first one that they organized. And then Jack Your Body was the second one. What was the time frame from that to that?
Jack Your Body, I had done a 4-track version of it, maybe even before Music is the Key. Like I did all these different bedroom mixes of everything, like early on, and they start out as just concepts of things that would move the dance floor. And then when I went in and did the final Jack Your Body, I made it something totally different. I got one of my managers knew how to play blues, and I asked him how I could take that bass line that I was playing and make it change and do like a blues turnaround, so that it would feel like more musical and feel like something Chicago, like, because Chicago being the home of the blues. So I would say that Music is the Key came out 85, Jack Your Body was 86. But really Jack Your Body was created before Music is the Key as like a 4-track. Just like I Can't Turn Around was created before Music is the Key, and all the other stuff I was telling you about. Yeah, so
and you were playing them at the clubs already. You were.
Yeah, I used to take a Tascam 4-track. I don't know if you remember what those were like.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I would have the vocals on. The first track would be the drums, then the bass, then the music, then the vocals. So that was my 4 tracks, right? So I would be remixing live while I was DJing. I could play the drums to bring it in, then I just bring in the bass line, bring in the vocals, like just, you know, having a ball, mixing it live, like multi-tracking it at the party. And then I had all these people, especially guys in the front of the DJ booth, just like the same way I was with Kenny Jason. You know, it was so weird. It was like almost surreal to see. I saw myself and all these kids that were looking at me. I was like, wow, they're looking at me the way I was. Like, that's the way I was with Kenny Jason, and just, you know, seeing all these guys mixing records and trying to learn how to do it. And it was just a good feeling. People like Kay Alexi and what's his name? At the Glenwood roller rink. What is his name? Yeah, he brought me there a couple of times. Maurice Joshua and Hula brought me out to Midlothian a few times to play at the Lodge. And I know for sure I had that 4-track recorder when I did the Lodge for them. And I remember playing I Can't Turn Around.
And that was pre Jesse Saunders, am I correct?
Some of it might have been like right. Some of it was right when he started dabbling in that stuff like that. Because there was other records that were from like remixes of Sal Soul stuff. So I started seeing like different people. Like I think Frankie did his remix of the Let No Man Put Us Under. I don't know if that wasn't house, but it was, you know, it was post-disc, you know, disco. But
because that was the Pet Shabone remix, right? That he was doing.
The Shep Pettibone, and then he did a mix. Yeah, because I used to play the Shep mix. So all that stuff was like influencing me. Like, man, I need to do this stuff. So I can't really put a timeline totally on it, but I know it was all right around 83 and 84 was when I really started learning more and more about how to put together a record. And then once Jesse did it, man, everybody was on the fast track. Everybody wanted to learn even faster. You know what I mean? So it got crazy, and we had a passion for it. All of us did. The Chippies and Marshall Jefferson, Adonis, Fingers Incorporated.
And also the Hot Mix 5. I mean, that was kind of the whole thing because
the Hot Mix 5 is what gave the opportunity for our stuff to be exposed too. So
right.
So more so than doing records, Farley was one of the early people to do records because we were roommates and everything. He had a Linn drum, so he had a little bit more money than me because he had been in the game for a minute. I had moved out of the house, but I didn't have any money. I was scraping and scrounging, but he was already in the Hot Mix 5, so he was already making the top paychecks on the weekend and all that stuff, so I was working towards that, so he had a head start on me on the production because he was able to get his Linn drum. And I don't know if you remember those tracks with the dog barking, woo, 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 like all that stuff. Yeah, like he was doing that stuff in his parents' house, just like I was doing stuff in my parents' house. And then we moved in and became roommates, and we were just like DJing, and it was a good time, despite all the things that may have happened between Farley and I, those were good memories, and all that stuff was essential to all of us. Everybody's story was essential to everyone making it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one person can say, man, if it wasn't for me, I would have, there would be no house music. No, if it wasn't for all of us coming together and supporting each other, and this person did something with this drum machine and you heard it and you're like, wow, I like that drum machine, or man, he used this keyboard, man, Fingers used a Juno, I like that Juno. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody.
I bought a Juno just because of Fingers, honestly.
Right. Yeah, and then somebody had Jam and Lewis had the Oberheim that they were using, and the Shadows of Your Love, we used that Oberheim on that, and that I ended up using that sound on Jack Your Body. So had it not been for all of that stuff happening, Jack Your Body would have been a different record just because the sounds would have been different. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have, if I didn't have that keyboard that Danny Wilson had in his basement when they wrote Shadows of Your Love, Keith and Peter Black and Danny Wilson, they got together and wrote Shadows of Your Love. And I was working on Jack Your Body. And that was when Keith really first started writing, so it was almost like a rebellion for him. Like, man, Steve, he's taking too long. Let's write something ourselves. And then they did. And then I came over there and checked it out, and they had that. And I love that sound of that Oberheim they have. Ooh, I need to, man, let me just sample that. Let me just sample that sound right there. And I put that on Jack Your Body. So what if I had not, if anything didn't align like that, then Jack Your Body wouldn't have been what it was because the sound of that bass would have been something different.
Right.
Maybe I would have used a Juno and it wouldn't have been as good on that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was just, I don't ever have regrets about anything that happened.
Let me say something that's really ironic because, I got involved in the Latin part of it, and I've been involved, and the stories you're telling me is almost the same stories as what happened in the Latin market when it came to the music from Cuba, and they came to New York, and then it was like they heard this sound from the jazz band, they heard this sound,
wow,
and all of a sudden here comes, oh yeah, you know what? This 5-piece band, we're gonna do these 4 horns, and and just as like the argument is like, where did it start? And it's just very similar to that whole thing because you can't say that like salsa started in New York. It was a combination of everybody taking a piece of everything and putting it together, and because they heard this, they heard from that band, and it's the same thing. It's the same kind of the same story that happened in the 50s over there with the Latin music is the same thing would happen with house culture. And I keep calling it house culture because obviously later on it became a genre. And, and that's one thing I want to make sure that you coming from that era, from firsthand, I know you're definitely going to understand that that's what it was. The culture first and then became the genre afterwards.
Yep, that's true.
So it was when you got and from what I'm hearing, that this happened like within a 2-year period. You were boom. It was
it was quick.
It was
the DJ. It took me longer to become a DJ than it did to become a producer. Like, I was messing around from 78 from my junior year till I graduated, 2.5 years before I even kind of figured out how to mix 2 records together. So then after that, even once I learned how to mix the records together, I had to get the opportunity to play my 3 records that I could afford to buy at Mr. T's record shop down the street. Like that was, I was tapping people on the shoulder and like, man, just let me play a couple of records. And I probably would have cleared the dance floor with the 3 records I had because, they were playing like all the hot stuff. I didn't have any of that stuff. But me being in that environment and going over my boy Cliff Town's house, I remember he had a house down the street from me. And we used to all go over there and DJ with him. I used to DJ with, go over E.T. Taylor's house. He was my protege. He's now known for doing the stepping music and everything. Of course, you've worked with E.T. He's done some stuff with you guys, right? Like at the Alhambra. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we all came up together, like learning that thing. So it took longer. It definitely took till like I won that DJ battle. That's when I was pretty good DJ by then. I was a good battle DJ, but then I had to learn how to make people dance and feel what I was doing and make the ladies get what they wanted. Because I was used to DJing for the guys in the front row and doing all these tricks and stacking 5 records on each turntable and seeing how fast I could go from one to the other, while the women are probably in the back like, I'm going to the washroom. Let me know when this dude is done with all this craziness he's doing. I mean, that's how I got their attention, though. That battle that I won, I used a record from this show, Romper Room, that was saying, okay, boys and girls, it's time to march, march, march. And then I brought in Bostage. And so that I had them right there. So then all I had to do was just not mess up any blends or anything, and I was good. So once I did that, then I had to, like I said, I had to learn how to actually play music for the people and make them enjoy music the way I did when I went to a club to listen to music. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to make myself a fan again. I had to learn the skills to get in the door, but then I had to become a fan of the music again and put myself in that mindset of playing music for people that are fans of music. You know what I mean? Like you can't just half step on that and just chop up stuff and think people are gonna vibe to you for 2 hours or 3 hours or however long you're spending.
Well, and then you become a perfectionist as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm trying to create the records that will react just as good as the ones that I'm buying. So it's like something you gotta kind of balance, It's really cool.
Okay, so now, when do you become part of the Hot Mix 5? When does that happen in your career?
Okay, so I won the battle, started spinning Sawyer's, was on GCI, I was on VON for a minute, and we had like a pretty decent crew on GCI, but I really wanted to be on BMX. Then they had the DJ battle, South Side, North Side, West Side, and I won the South Side in a close battle with Little John, who scared the crap out of me because he was younger than me, but he was like off the hook. So I escaped that. And then when I went to the finals, I lost to Julian, but I felt like I won, but I'm not a bitter kind of person. I was like, okay, it's cool. It's not meant for me right now. Whatever's for me is meant for me, And then at some point, another spot opened up and they put me in there, and I was ecstatic because, I was a fan of the Hot Mix 5 and a DJ, you know what I'm saying? So I couldn't wait for that opportunity, like, man. And then that gave me the opportunity to play the music I was creating. The timing was perfect because I was creating music at that time. That had to be 84 or something like that, I think, when I got on there. Because I think I got on there right before Jesse started making his music. I think that I got on right before that.
I was going to say, there was also Jeff Davis that was in the scene as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Coconuts and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
And Joe Smooth a lot of people don't know Joe Smooth was holding it down up north too. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I forgot about Jeff
I
Davis.
remember
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
No, because I used to go to the Century all the time. I used to be
Oh, the
DJing over.
Century, yeah. Yep, the
So,
Century, yeah, and the club was in the mall, right? Wasn't the
right,
club
downstairs
inside
in
the
the
Century
basement.
Mall? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was cool. I remember going there to see him before. Yeah, but
Well,
yeah, Kenny is my
but at the same time,
all time favorite as far as like putting that bug in my ear that man, I gotta learn this, you know.
well, and at that time, there was the record pools that was starting to get big. Am I correct?
Right?
And besides the radio aspect of it, there was now the record pools that now you had to service them, correct? And that's where all the DJs were playing your music. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. And that's, that's how the whole DJ International thing started with the Audio Talents record pool and Benji and Rocky and Lauren and all those guys. Because I was a part of that and I was getting music from, once you're in the Hot Mix 5, you just get music from everybody at that point.
Right.
So,
right.
But that was the pool that I was affiliated with. And we just decided to, I borrowed some money from my dad and we put out the first record. And that was, the start of it all. This for me, of actually saying, wow, people actually will buy my music. Like this is not just a hobby. This is like something I could actually do. And maybe I won't be a knucklehead to my dad anymore. Like this is like, I'm sure every guys grow up mature much slower than females usually. So, at some point we all were knuckleheads. I stayed a knucklehead for a while because I was trying to do something that nobody could even fathom. You want to be a DJ. Like my father thought that was like somebody in a tavern, playing music or something like that. Like he didn't really, I didn't have anything to explain to him, like what I was doing. Like I even tried to show him, but it's like, okay. Like nobody really got it.
Right. Most parents probably were the same way because at that time it was brand new.
Yeah.
They didn't understand it. They thought it was we're at the club partying all the time.
But my dad ended up being the one who helped me, with the money to get that first record out. So even though I thought he was being hard on me, he really was just making sure that I knew what the heck I was doing. I was adamant about the fact that I needed that money when I did. So I convinced him, you know what I'm saying? I sold it to him because I was passionate about the music and I knew there was a demand and I explained that to him. So I guess for the first time, he was like, oh, wow. Or maybe the second time he was like, oh, wow. First time was when I moved out of the house, when he told me I couldn't DJ any public parties. And it was a party. I had a DJ at Sawyer's and it was a public party. And he said, either you do what I say or you get out. And I was like, deuces. And then I DJ'd the party and moved in with the sound man, Frenchie, who actually lived over there in that South Shore area. You remember him, Frenchie?
Yes, I do. I do remember.
Yeah. I lived in his basement for 2 weeks. Like,
oh, wow.
That was a stand that I took that made my father say, wow. And then he sent my brother and sister over there. He's like, Dad wants you to come home. Like, I'll stay here and I'll stay here forever because I'm pursuing my dream. Steve, you know what I'm saying?
Steve, funny that you say that because I did the same thing with my dad as well.
What?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It was. You were at that age. It was I think 16 or 17 because they didn't believe that some of the stuff we were doing. So I was doing
there was no precedence to it. So how do you?
Right, and I was DJing as well. So for them, they were like you're throwing your life away, and it was like, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own. So it's about I think it was about a year. I think about a year that I was out of the house, and then finally when I came back, that he was like, "Wow, you're actually making money doing this."
Right.
Good.
Yeah. I got to move back home.
That was kind of.
Yeah, they convinced me to come back home and said that he had changed my curfew to 2:00, which that was better, but I knew I was going to push that about 30 minutes or so I could at least DJ the party, Right. So that ended up working out. Wait, what was the question you just asked me? You asked me something specific about that time. I don't remember now. I went off on a tangent, probably.
I know. No, I was just saying how quickly it blew up from the time you were,
Yeah,
from
once that record came out in
and then
'85, then man,
and
like
the Hot Mix 5. That's what I was saying about
it
the
was
Hot Mix
just
5. You were jumping into the
studio.
Hot
It
Mix 5.
was yeah. Well, then we got signed after that record took off, and then we had Shadows and Jack Your Body, and then the album was getting recorded, and then I Can't Turn Around was gonna be next. Really, it could have been first if I would have known that I could have put it out, but then I got beat to putting that song out, with the Love Can't Turn Around. So it kind of stole the thunder from it. Even though it, went #1 on the dance charts, it still, it kept it from doing what it was going to do overseas. But I don't regret it because it opened the door. That record opened the door for Jack Your Body in London. So that went to #1 on the pop charts in London, courtesy of them knowing what house music actually was. So hey, you got to be careful about what you have regrets about. So I learned a huge lesson from that because it became a blessing in disguise, and things just from that point, I was so focused on just learning my craft like I did with the DJing. I wanted to learn how to be a better producer. Every time I did something, I wanted to learn to be better and better and better. And like I said, I did the artist thing with RCA, learned that wasn't for me. And then once I felt like I was free when I let that group thing go and let Keith go and do his solo thing, then that kind of left me free to do stuff for Inner City and 10 City, and Steve Mathis, I think, was around there. I did, what was that guy? What was that group? Not NX, New Order was some of my first, Pseudo Echo, Funky Town. Like that was my early stuff where I was learning how to remix. I started doing a lot of remixes, and then I was working on albums, and Jamie came into the camp. I was producing stuff on him. So all that stuff was like happening, like, 20 and 30 records a year, like from 86 and 87, 88.
And you were in the studio then. You were always in the studio then. Is that correct? You were always in the studio?
I mean, I would DJ occasionally, but I was really focused on the studio because that, to me, was my future. I was learning how to write songs. Even though my first song, I wrote it in its entirety, but I was not a prolific songwriter or anything. So I had to learn that whole side of, collaborating with people, working with vocalists, teaching, getting a good vocal out of a singer. Like we had a lot of singers who could sing, but they didn't know how to stack their vocals. So, some of my mentors with the vocals was like Donnell Rush eventually. He was a seasoned singer, so he came in and he was like helping us with the vocals later in the 90s with Shantae Savage and Sean Christopher come in there? Not Sean Christopher. She didn't do anything back then with us, but she was working with Mike Hitman at that time, who was a good friend of mine. But I just like started learning what all the artists in Chicago had learned years ago that were doing R&B. Like I had to learn how to be that kind of producer after doing a type of music that was totally against that, which was more raw, which was house music, which was less instruments. Then I had to learn about instrumentation and vocals and like real recording methods. You know what I mean? Like, and technical,
I was going to say, who would you say would be your best engineer that you worked with as far as
Larry Sturm, hands down. Like, him, Grant Austin, and then also there's a guy named Scott A. House at I forgot. I think he was at. Was he at? I forgot where he was. And then Craig Bauer over at Hinge. Oh wow. Oh wait, did I lose you? Someone called you, bro. yeah, I declined him, but man, and it was a spam too. It popped up. Spam is calling you. Larry Sturm. I learned so much from him. He did my first record. He was engineer on Music is the Key and all the early stuff. And then later on in the 90s, he was my engineer through all those years. And then not only that, I ended up getting the rights to my catalog back from him because he actually inherited the catalog through, what he was doing with the company. And then I ended up getting it back, buying it from him, like the master catalog. So that, he ended up really looking out for me on that. Like he could have gotten more money from somebody else, but he wanted me to have it because he knew it would mean so much to me to actually be able to take that and make some cool things happen with it, which is actually happening for us now at SNS. Like we got like 14 records on the classic house chart right now on Track Source.
So let's talk about how that moves forward into you doing SNS. Well, so let's talk about that. How did you get into that, or how was it? Because I just in case some people didn't see yesterday's interview with Skip.
So I would say through the 90s, of course, I was doing a remix, a couple of remixes a week. So I was like, man, I was doing like 40 songs a year and 40 remixes. Like I was just everybody from Liza Minnelli to everybody, and then the situation with ID, we've ended up falling out with the management and kind of broke up, and that took like a 2-year lawsuit, which was like one of the most trying times of my life from 93 to 95. And then we were reborn and had a spot on 610 North Fairbanks, Silk Entertainment and Into Soul Records, which we actually were doing the same thing we were doing at ID with most of the same people, but doing it on our own and learning the business end of it even more so, so then that evolved, and I had Silk Entertainment label, and then meanwhile I was DJing overseas because I had The Word Is Love as one of my songs that took off for me in 96, and that's when I started seeing Skip in the airports coming from France, and I was going to France, or I was going to Switzerland, he was coming from Switzerland, I'm saying, like we were like bumping into each other at airports more than we were seeing each other here or seeing each other in Miami. And like he said, we met in the frozen foods section at Ultra Foods and had a good conversation and ended up playing basketball together for about a year before we did anything with music, so by 2004, we decided to do that Chicago LP, 2003 maybe. And it took us like a year because we went and filmed every place, filmed all the guys from Chicago who were instrumental in the scene, and had them each do a record. And we wanted the DVD to kind of be like almost like a press kit for each person to say, okay, this is how I got into business. Like kind of what you're doing with me now. We did it with 33 people, but of course it couldn't be this long for each one, but we might have interviewed them for this long, but we had to cut it, so it ended up being almost like each person had their own little chapter, you know what I mean? So you could watch all of those different chapters and see all the different stories that came out, and everybody had their own separate story, but it all came together to create this thing we call house music, So after that, we wanted to just continue to do music because we like working together, and we were very like-minded, even though he's 15 years younger than me. He was very mature in his thinking as far as business and the decisions he made with his music and how he was going to exploit the music that he had in his catalog. So it was like, it ended up being a great match for us to be, and with him knowing marketing and me being more technical, it was kind of like a really cool combination where it's almost guaranteed that on any subject, we're going to disagree to a certain degree, which is going to bring like this perfect storm of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going to bring something and I'm going to bring something, and we're going to argue it out. And in the end, we're going to come to a great decision because I'm going to see a little bit of what he's saying. He's going to see a little bit of what I'm saying. And then musically, we had similar tastes in music, even though he came from ghetto house and juke, and I came from regular, like traditional house, and then gospel house and soulful house, and, all these different genres of house that were different from the ones he started out in. But then in the end, he's playing a lot of these soulful records as well, coming from ghetto house and juke, but then DJing in Ibiza, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes maybe even playing techno set or something, or playing house music sped up to survive in a techno environment.
Well, he was talking about he was big in the underground circuit. That's where he was, that's where he was. But did you get big in the underground circuit as well?
Yeah, I did a few raves, but I was more of a producer than I was a DJ. So I wasn't doing a whole lot of DJing. You know what I mean? Like, so they would hire me because they're like, oh, it's Steve Silk Hurley. It made Jack Your Body and The Word Is Love. And we want to put him on the bill. It was more like that. Whereas he was like this guy that was coming to turn out these parties more so on his personality, you know, because he had like star power and the personality to rock the party. Didn't really matter what he was playing. He knew how to do whatever it took to kind of, get the crowd riled up. You know, he had that it factor. So I think that's how he broke in that scene and made his mark. So it made for a really cool combination when we started DJing and together in Las Vegas and places like that, Slovenia, all these different festivals and things like that, because he had that experience of having to create the party with the personality and not just the music. And then my thing was always about the music. So it was kind of a good combination. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to prove it without saying anything on the mic. I wanted to get them dancing without saying not even one word. Right. But then he was like more of a personality kind of DJ. Like, so it was a good combination, you know, and it still is even to this day. You know, I think I pull a little bit from him. He pulls a little bit from me. And that always makes for a good partnership, you know, when, you know, even with the things that we do with the label, different duties that I may perform and different duties he may perform. Like, people would never believe all the different hats we wear, you know, to run the label. And we don't mind doing it because, you know, it's something that we can, at the end of the day, say is something that we built on our backs. You know what I'm saying? Like, we feel like, you know, because we're giving others opportunity to go to the next level that maybe might be underdogs and nobody's giving them a chance. We'll give them a chance. Like, you got some hot music, we want to hear it. Like, we're not asking you, well, how many YouTube views do you have, or how many Spotify followers do you have? Like, if we like the music, we like the music and we want to put it out, you know? So that's kind of our whole concept, is to try to give people an opportunity. We got a lot of artists from different countries and continents and provinces that we've worked with, you know? I mean, that's what kind of inspired our clothing line too, to kind of go in the direction we've been going in. We launched a clothing line, and we're starting to shout out some of these countries that we've been to as DJs and the cities that are within them. Spain and Italy, we got a France shirt coming out. We got South Africa coming. Like, we're really like trying to express ourselves creatively in more than one way, more than just music or more than just DJing, you know, just any way that we can visually express ourselves, or, you know, with the clothing line, it allows us to express ourselves in a different way as well and push the brand forward that we've been building for 15 years, you know.
Right. So I just recently seen a post that you had a Life Achievement Award that you were presented on Saturday.
Yeah, that was a real honor. You know, it was a group of DJs from the Chicagoland area that just wanted to acknowledge not only what I've done musically, being in the lab all the time, which makes me feel really good because I know how much work it's been and how long it took me to learn my craft and become good enough to make records that people will want to buy outside of the dance clubs as well too. Like, not just for the clubs, but also for the radio. It took me a long time to learn how to learn new skills, basically, you know. And they also wanted to honor us for what we're doing with working with new talent and how we're trying to keep the scene going and give people opportunities to go to the next level with their brands in conjunction with our brand. So, you know, when they said that, we were like, hey, you know, we didn't say, oh, well, who are you guys? Like, or what do you do? Like, no, I mean, of course we knew them, but I'm saying, like, sometimes people get really like that even when somebody's trying to honor you, it's pretty insulting if you say, well, who are you, or something like that. Like, you would never hear those words come out of our mouth because we don't operate like that. You know, from what I understand,
Right.
you're the same type of person. Like you give people opportunities because they've shown that they deserve an opportunity, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether somebody else wants them or anything like that, or if they're hot right now. I mean, of course, yeah, if you have a venue and you're doing events, you want the hot guy too, but you also want to give others an opportunity that are the next up that just need that little opportunity that you needed when you were trying to make it, So you kind of relate to that.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. And one thing I want to say, and I'll say publicly to everybody out there that this man here, Steve Silk Hurley, is one of the pioneers in the house industry. He's one of the pioneers, and obviously, if nobody doesn't know it, he's definitely got to be recognized. I mean, not just because of what you did, but the type of person you are as well. I've known you for quite a long time, and I know that, in this industry, you've always stayed very humble. You're probably the most humble of all the guys that I know. And not to say that the other guys aren't humble as well, but probably, and we know some guys that tend to be a little big-headed in this business, So,
yeah.
But one thing that nobody can ever say that is about you, Steve. That
I try to leave room. I try to leave room to educate myself. Like, it's hard to educate yourself and learn something new if you're constantly thinking, "Man, I'm the man." Like, man, you hear that? Like, you hear that song? Man, I did that. Like if you're always in that mode, how are you going to pay attention to what's going on around you when the world is changing and different sounds are coming in, but you're so caught up in yourself and what you're doing that you don't even see that something new is coming. You know what I mean? Like, think of all the different genres that came since you've been a DJ.
Sounds like something I heard on the news just today.
Oh, really? What happened on the
news? Yeah, talking about someone talking about himself, so you think he's
right.
great?
Yeah. I mean, even with the Grammy nominations, I mean, when I got nominated, I was excited. The first time, super excited to just be nominated. I wasn't thinking, man, I've arrived now. I'm thinking like, man, and then when I didn't get it, I'm thinking the next year, man, I have to really, something missing. I got to just keep going. And I got nominated 4 times and never won, but I don't feel like I've arrived yet. Like, I'll never feel like I've arrived. I feel like, I had some high points and some good moments, and I'm proud of the things that I've done. In no way am I ashamed of anything. But at the same time, I'm never really satisfied because I always feel like there's something new that you can do that could top what you did last time. Like, I'm not in competition with my peers. I'm in competition with myself. I'm always trying to improve myself. It's almost like the golf theory. Like, when you're golfing, you're really competing with yourself. You're trying to improve your golf score. Like, I'm horrible at golf, by the way. So, that's just something I said because it made sense. But I'm a basketball guy. But it's just you can't be satisfied.
Like, what do you mean? It's the same thing with basketball. You you're gonna be like, I can't miss the shot.
Yeah. Now that you got to have a little arrogance when you're playing basketball, but after you're done, you don't want to stay arrogant after the game. Like, you want to, the guy who you got into it with, like, hey man, that was nothing but just, we was just hooping. That's it. I mean, I didn't mean nothing by that. I didn't mean to set that hard pick on you or nothing. That's the only way I could get my man open. Yeah, but
so one of these days, me and you gotta play because I played for almost 18 years. I played for 18 years. I had to stop, honestly.
Yeah, the limbs get a little bit.
For the first time, was it
limbs
about
get a little
10
bit
years
shaky.
ago? Oh no, my knees.
My knees got worse,
time.
but my knees got worse, but my jumper got wet. It's just like, so I can't stop. It's like I can't make myself stop because my range got better and my shot got better, more accurate. I got smarter with how to get open and, you know, how to use my teammates to get open. You know, I'm like the dude that sets all the picks, and then next thing you know, I'm open. And then they're like, how is he getting all these shots when he's moving 2 miles per hour? And they're fussing at each other. Then I know we've succeeded when that happens, you know? Yeah, I just love the strategy of the game. You know, I've loved basketball for years.
Right. I mean, dude, I like I said, I think I stopped playing about 10 years ago is when my knees started hurting for the first time. I've never had any problems, back problem, nothing. 10 years ago, I'm playing with some 18-year-olds.
There it is.
And I was like, and it wasn't that I was out of breath. It was the knees. And
certain things you think you can do that you can't. Yeah, so and then you become the defensive liability. So when you go out there, you got to find that person that you know you can stay in front of and be like, yeah, I got him. Wait, but he's taller than you. But then you're thinking, I can stay in front of him at least. I'd rather bang with that guy than have the speedy guy going past me on every play, and then I'm at fault for every. Yeah, and then me being the oldest guy out there, a lot of times, then I get to be that one who's setting the pick, and they leave me open, and they don't get it until after I've dropped about three or four of them on them, and then they're like, somebody gonna get him? Because, you know, I'm setting the pick on the best player. So if you want to switch to me when I set the pick, that's cool with me. Because then the guy who I set the pick for, now he's sticking the person who was sticking me, which was now you all are really in trouble. That's really my motive. It's not me trying to score a lot of points. You know? So that's what I mean when I say I love the strategy of the game. It's just like
right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game, and I'll be glad when it comes back. Hope this bubble works out.
Yep, I agree. So in closing with you, what would you consider the highlight of your career? I mean, obviously your career is never over, but I'm saying that if you were to look back at your whole career, what would be your highlight that you would say, hey, that moment was?
I would say one of my best moments. I don't know if I've ever even named this moment before, but I was at the ASCAP Awards in 1990, I think. And I met Jam and Lewis, who I was a huge fan of them as producers. In case anybody doesn't know who that is, it's produced Janet Jackson and the whole rest of the world in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, they were just them and Babyface, LA and Babyface were the ones there from the group the time, like, but just geniuses. But I was introduced to them at the ASCAP Awards because I was up for an award for some CeCe Peniston music that I had done. And I met them, and I met Narada Michael Walden. I don't know if you remember him. He was a big producer as well. Houston, So I met both of them at this thing, and I'm like awestruck, but I'm acting like everything's all good. And Jimmy Jam goes like this to me. Jimmy, and I only have one hit at that point. Well, one R&B hit, which was "Keep on Walking." And he's like, "Keep on walking, man." So, man, this is all I have to say. I couldn't believe he did that. Like, I was like, this guy is so humble. I'll never be like when I saw that, I knew then that I was on the right track because I wanted to be like him. I knew I would never be arrogant because that was so cool of him to, when he has, like, how many gold and platinum records did he have by 1991? Like, he had at least 50 number ones probably by then. You know what I'm saying? And I'm on my second, Jack Your Body overseas. Right. And I had, I think, Too Blind to See It was hot that year, and the two CeCe records. But he's praising me for something I did that's R&B, first of all, R&B with a dance flavor. So it just made me, and I had been getting fault by the people who were fans of my house music that I was doing too much R&B or something. And here this guy validates me with this right here. Like, that that just touched my heart right there. And then from that point on, we were friends, and I ended up doing stuff with him and Ann Nesby. And one time when I went to go to produce a record for Ann Nesby, he actually met me at the airport. Him and Terry both met me at the airport with a couple of guys and said, we're going to make a stop first. And we pulled up at the basketball stadium, and he said, oh yeah, we're just going to stop here for a minute. And it was the Timberwolves were playing the Suns with Charles Barkley. And we walk in, and I'm like, oh wow, we're going to the game, cool. And then guess where we sit? Not kind of in the middle of the court in the first row, court side, but right on the line. My seat is right on the line, and Jam is right here next to me. And I guess Terry went to the studio, and so I had Terry's seat and Jimmy Jam. And then during that game, Charles Barkley was cursing out the refs. He cursed him out about probably 5 or 6 times before he finally got a technical. I mean, it was just like I couldn't make this up, man. Like, this is just those were pinch me moments. So a couple of my moments that I remember, it's not even what people would probably expect. Like that's the stuff that means something to me when you put in a lot of work and one of your peers who's done more than you recognizes you for what you did. Like that. Right. That is the example of how you're supposed to be. So I couldn't be any other way than the way Jam and Lewis are. Like I would feel like I'm disappointing. Like God put me in that place for a reason, so I could see that. So I could see how I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? No matter what success I may get, I need to be like that. And that's the way Skip is too.
Right. And I'm sure some young producer, when you hear that he comes out with a new track, you're going to do the exact same thing to him and saying, okay,
Yeah, which I have.
Because that's the way you
are.
That's
what's crazy is because it doesn't feel weird to me at all. It could be somebody who's never done a record and they play me some demo that they think is, can you listen to my demo? And they're like real humble and like, what do you think? And then I'm like, then I would tell them the truth, like how I feel about it. Like if I love it, I'm going to tell them I love it. And I'm going to try to put it out on SNS if I can, So it's just like, yeah, I mean, those moments, of course, Grammy nominations can't beat that. But that, when you say like top moments, man, if I could put that in a bottle, man, that's crazy for somebody who you looked up to tell you that you're great. Like think about that. Like just in anything that you do, and not just music, just like the first time your dad told you were great at something and he was hard on you your whole life or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like those things feel, that's what we need more of course, in this crazy time that we're in. But of course, we don't have the leadership that reflects that mindset at all. So it's very important that we get out and vote this year. That's all I have to say to that.
Absolutely. I 1,000% agree with you. And then just to let you know, probably this interview is going to be one of my pinnacle moments in my career as well. So trust me.
Oh, wow. Appreciate
Thank
that. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
Is there anything in closing you want to say to everybody that logged on? Because quite a few people logged on. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really happy with the way things are going, despite us being in a pandemic. I think I've been more productive now than I've ever been I would say at least in the last 10 years. I would say I've been way more productive now than I've been maybe in my life, because I'm learning every day. Every day I wake up, I'm learning. So I just hope that people can stay encouraged during this time, and hopefully they are making lemonade out of lemons right now. And this time has given them time to think about what it is that they really want to do, and that they've been able to take steps towards that, because the life as we knew it before COVID is not really going to come back. Like we have to move forward and be forward thinking and go to the next level and take our thinking to another level where, you know, we're looking for the next thing that we can do, that or maybe some way that we can make a difference, or something that we can do even in our business that's different. You know, like you do events. So, you know, and you might have been at a pinnacle of doing your events. Like, man, I can't wait for this next one, these next 3. I got 5 of them set up. These are going to be the best events I've ever done. And then look what happens. And like, and even for me, like I was starting to tour more because my youngest daughter is a junior in college now. So now I don't have to really be worried about being gone and, you know, not being around my kids and everything. So, you know,
right.
And then as soon as this hit, then of course we're giving refunds back to people for gigs I was supposed to do, all kinds of stuff. But I would say this is like, man, I've never been this productive before. This has been like, I've been just trying to stay, been trying to stay safe and keep my family safe. I'm just grateful that my family has been able to stay safe. And I really, you know, holding my prayers, all the people that have lost loved ones, because I know how that must feel.
Right.
And, you know, I'm just, like I said, I'm just grateful for the peace that I have in being stuck in the house. Like, it's something that you don't really think about. Like, we're always on the go, you know? We're always like, man, I got to get to this event. I got to get there.
Right.
Like, I think we need to all think about that. Think about, you know, how can we take this moment of peace and turn it into something? Like, what, you know, everything is going to change. Everything is virtual. Everything is, you know, we're going to come out of this not exactly the same as it was before. So I just feel like we should all be learning from this and be grateful. Those that, you know, have had their families stay safe, we should be thankful, and we should really comfort those who have lost loved ones and do everything we can to love out here. You know? That's why we did the Peace, Love, Unity, and Respect compilation, because we felt like it was really needed right now. And, you know, we wanted to put together a collection of our music that reflected that and put it out there and, you know, let people know what we're about, and also, you know, just what we're about from a concept of the way we operate in day-to-day life, not just what our music is about, but what, you know, how we live. Like, we live in peace, unity, love, and respect. Like, that's how we do business. We do business in that
right.
way. You know,
it's funny because I know Detroit touts themselves as brotherly love, but I think Chicago has its own, you know, unification because we've done it quite a bit, through the years. We've done it organically. We've always done it, and doing things together. And, you know, and if something's wrong, we fix it. That's the way. Yeah. That's the way Chicago is. You know,
we do.
We have always, you know, I can go back to the times of this happening, that happening, or right here, that, you know, we've always been able to, you know, and I honestly have always said that music is the key, you know, pardon the pun, but, you know, music is the key to a lot of this, you know, whatever happens, you know, it seems to be, you know, and I guess that's the really frustrating part about it, because I know that publicly we can't do these big music events, but I know it helps. It always has helped us. That's why, you know, Chosen Few did what they did, and it's grown, and that's why the festivals and all the stuff that has been happening in Chicago, Summer Dance and all that, you know, music has always brought people together. Right. You know, and a perfect example is, you know, like my events. I love doing my events because there's so much culture. I mean, different everybody from 21 to 75-year-olds, white, black, Asian, you name it. It's all across the board. They always come, and that is, you know, that in itself is like, I guess, you know, the best feeling. And I know you as a producer love that feeling when you have people that hear your music and you're like, oh, it comes together and brings them happiness and brings them that, you know, and I think that's important.
I think people,
Steve, thank you very much for the interview.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it.
You were saying?
Oh no, I was saying just one more closing statement. I just think that with the technology and how music has become more disposable, I think there's going to be a resurgence in the appreciation of music and the appreciation of the events that you put together, for instance, or that any of us put together. I think we're going to have a better appreciation of all the things that we usually take for granted. And now I think when we do finally come together, things are going to be embraced in a whole different way. And it's going to be the quality level of everything is going to be better now, because people are going to be giving a lot of thought to things that they're doing now. Like they're not going to just throw things together, throw records together, people are going to demand more quality. So those of us who believe in quality, it's our time. Like,
absolutely.
And I'm gonna let you go.
Quality. I know, quality over quantity. That's always been my motto for a long time. So
Same here.
Steve, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Guys, this is Steve Silk Hurley.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you. Looking forward to the salsa. Looking forward to the merengue. I need a merengue lesson, man. Tell him I need one. I got to get my rhythm right.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.